Mic check, mic check, mic check. Yeah, see, it's, yeah, little secret. I already do the mic checks,
Yeah,
but like 9 times out of 10, like I'm good, and then there's that one time where I'm like mic check. Oh no,
it's not good. Yeah.
that's
Uh,
not great. So, hey,
oh,
welcome to Kickback. This is Braven, the grown-up kid, and I've got Sam
DiGiacomo.
DiGiacomo. I was
Yes,
gonna
sir.
say DJ. I was like DJ. No,
DiGiacomo.
yeah, Sam DiGiacomo with me. This is actually a really, really special one to me because like my brand Instagram follows your brand Instagram, and so like I see a lot of the stuff that you guys are doing, and I'm like, yo, and it was cool to me because like number one, meeting someone else who does that in a corporate space is not normal.
No, it's weird, man. The event space
Like,
is so weird. There's nobody that does it.
and which is surprising, and what's especially really cool is that you're not doing it in New York or LA or Chicago or anything like that. Like you're doing it in your city,
Yeah.
which is again super uncommon. You don't see it where, I mean, it's hard to put places. I don't even want to say on the map because, I mean, that's not. It didn't seem. It doesn't look like that's like your goal necessarily.
No.
Is
Yeah.
to like, oh man, we're gonna make Youngstown the next whatever. It seems like you're just like, no, we're just gonna do cool shit.
Yeah. And that's honestly all it stemmed from, right? So, and it's funny because like there's three guys that were kind of like the official like founding members of the thing, right? So it's my friend, my like lifelong friend, grew up with him, Danny.
Cool.
And then his friend, who I'd never met until the first event, Mike Carabal. I met him. We went to the same high school. I don't know, around the same time, but
Just like see you in the halls, kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But,
Like we were not tight. And then so It's funny because at the time Danny was running, and he still runs it. He's got a recording studio called Bear Cave Productions.
Okay.
So, and he records a lot of local artists. And so he was kind of doing this thing where he wanted to do an event downtown just to highlight Youngstown music.
Yeah.
And so I saw the thing on Instagram, and I saw that it was Danny's Instagram that put it up, his Bear Cave Instagram. I was like, oh, like I'm gonna text Danny. This seems sweet. Like I texted him, I was like, dude, this looks sweet. Like when is it? What's the detail? He's like,
Yeah.
actually, can you help? Because we don't know what we're doing. So that's how I got involved. And honestly, like Youngstown and the whole community of Youngstown is very like, people like to say like, there's a slogan, and I kind of hate it, but I guess it's accurate. Is that Youngstown invented grit? It's a steel town. It's the
Okay,
steel industry
yeah.
left in Ohio, so it was just kind of like this kind of shitty little town of nothing.
Well, and Youngstown is interesting because it's one of those cities that like very specific groups of people know. Like I've heard of Youngstown just because like as a sports fan,
Yeah,
you hear about certain guys like they're like I think Kelly Pavlik is from Youngstown.
Pavlik. Yeah, Pavlik.
And what's his name? Dude was a stud for Ohio State, and the only Ohio State player I didn't mind losing to,
Is it Coach?
Terrell Pryor.
Okay, yeah.
Terrell Pryor was like torching.
What's his name? Bernie Kosar went to
Okay,
the same high school as me.
really.
Yeah,
And so it's interesting just because Youngstown is one of those kind of cities where it's like, oh yeah, okay, I've heard of so and so, I've heard of so and so.
yeah.
And so when you say Youngstown music,
Yeah.
what is that?
So, primarily, like, I mean, my group focuses with rap. Like, our big thing is
Okay.
hip hop artists, local, and kind of like regional. I would say Youngstown, like, kind of generically, I would say they got Dana School of Music, which is a big jazz school.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, like, there's a lot of cool, like, there's a couple bars downtown that do jam night, and, like, it's mostly jazz, kind of, I'm not really into this shit. I respect the music, you
Yeah.
know, always, like, I'll go and I'll hang out. It's not really my scene. But, like, in general, it's tough to label the area. So, you have Dave Grohl, Foo Fighters,
Yeah.
grew up in Warren, which is about 20 minutes outside of Youngstown.
Okay.
The Black Keys, so
I do like the Black Keys.
Akron,
I
Ohio,
really
so it's
like
about
the Black
45
Keys.
minutes out. And it's like, I don't know, man. I think,
Which is interesting because what happens a lot of times, you look at Dave Grohl, and I've actually seen him live. I saw him live the day after he broke his leg, like
Oh,
5-6
yeah.
years
He
ago.
fell off the stage?
He came out like on a throne. I
Yep.
was like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I was never a big Foo Fighters fan, but it was a really cool festival I got a chance to go to, and I saw him and I'm like, okay, nah, this is kind of
yeah,
dope.
that's what.
And then the Black Keys, they come from Akron, but they kind of fall into a very similar trap as what happens in most big cities. Is like we just think Cleveland.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's that's why I was kind of interested in like, you know, what in that specific genre.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of genreless. Like there's a really, really cool, so Danny's main act, so Danny's a keys player aside from being a recording studio kind of just engineer. His main act is a crew called Spirit of the Bear, and they're like
Cool.
electronic pop kind of stuff. It's cool.
Churches.
Yeah, like do you know Hippocampus?
Yeah.
That kind of vibe.
Okay, cool.
They've actually, I think they performed with Hippocampus, like they opened for him once.
Okay, wow.
And then Danny's other crew is a band called the Lobber Brothers, and they're a Latin funk band out of Youngstown as well.
Okay.
And they're tight. And then actually Christian David Labra of the Lobber Brothers helped coordinate the event. So like we're kind of a tight knit crew. But we got Demos Papademos, who's like a sick Greek music act. That's like modern Greek music. It's cool.
Okay.
And so like that's kind of what I like about it, is that there's not really a genre. It's just people come into their own. You know, like the Lobber Brothers. You know, they're three actual brothers, and they're half Mexican. So that's where the Latin funk comes from. Like that's just the music they grew up with. That's the music they love. So they play it, and they're good at it. You know, Spirit of the Bear. You know, is mostly just dudes from like they met in high school. Their drummer was my roommate for a while. He's like a big metal drummer. You know, like that, but that's just the music they were passionate about, and that's what they started making. You know, Demos is Greek. He's got his first name is fucking Demos. Like he's Greek. You know, so and that's just kind of what's cool about it. So we kind of landed on hip hop and rap because that's what And we actually 2019 we did some funk acts as well and some more indie acts. And it's just like honestly, like when we go into an event, we're not like what's cool, like what are people listening to? It's like if we go to a show, what can people vibe to? Like what are people going to enjoy? And more importantly, like who could we help? You know, like we're not trying to book these, we're not trying to book the regional act that everybody books to open a show. Like we're not trying to go to Pittsburgh.
And we've seen a lot of stuff out of Pittsburgh, Cleveland. That kind of rust, but I don't want to say Chicago because like Chicago's a little bit different.
A little bit out, yeah.
Same with Detroit, but we've seen like Pittsburgh, Cleveland, like you've seen Trippie Redd, you've seen Wiz Khalifa, Mac Miller, which is interesting to me that they are starting to come out of that area. You look back even in the mid 2000s, and it was New York, LA, Atlanta, and that's about it until Kanye showed up, like Kanye and Eminem showed up.
Yeah, so it's funny that. So what's happening, and I think really all it comes down to, and I think that's why Youngstown fits so nicely, is it's just like that regional area, right? Yeah. So if you're playing a show in Chicago and your next show is in New York, you have to go through Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Youngstown.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So that's all it is, man. And it's like, so we're in Youngstown, an hour out, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. 3 hours out, we're going to hit Detroit. You're going to hit Columbus. You're going to hit, 5 hours out, you got Chicago. You got, New York's 6 to 8. I would say it's a little bit farther out, but you could just kind of draw like a spiral. You
hit that circuit.
Yeah, and that's all it is.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that's one of my things with Phoenix that is so, I don't want to say frustrating, but it is frustrating to me because you look at Las Vegas is 5 hours north.
Right.
LA is about 4.5. San Diego's about 5. And then you have Houston. Mm-hmm. So if you look at, let's say that you're a rapper and you're like, all right, man, where am I booking my shows? And you look and you see, all right, cool, Houston, San Antonio, Austin area, that's about an hour apart.
Yeah.
Dallas. And then a lot of places, and this is what I noticed, a lot of places, New Mexico and Arizona might as well not even exist. And then it's California.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they might hit Vegas depending on, what's going on. Mm-hmm. Vegas and then LA and, they'll go up the Pacific coast. And I'm like, for being the 4th largest metropolitan area in the United States, it doesn't act like it.
Right.
And there's so much that I think you can do here that you don't. I got a friend of mine. One of the things that really got me into promoting more. A friend of mine that I knew in high school. We reconnected. We happened to meet up in LA one time, and she is a screenwriter. She moved to LA to go to USC. Cool. Cool. Of course, that's. If you're going to make movies, USC is kind of the spot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, you can screenwrite anywhere, right? She's like, no. Without a doubt, I was like, an immediate no. Mm. I have to be in LA. I was like, well, what about, name some big screenwriters. What about so-and-so? They live in DC, they live in Seattle, she's like, sure, that's because they made Law and Order.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, And so my thing was like, listen, I want people to feel like they can stay at home
Yeah.
to create,
For sure.
you know?
Oh, 100%. No, and it's like, I think it kind of ties back, you know, 100%. Like, you need to be able to create it at home. But your city also needs to be able to support that creativity, right? So the problem that we solve for in Youngstown, or the problem that we're trying to solve for, is that there's no venue. There's no spot to do it, right?
Okay.
Like our event, so the summer event, the Block Party, is a 7-hour music festival. We bring in acts from Pittsburgh, Cleveland, wherever. We had an act from Nashville, Columbus, you know. There's nowhere where we could put all 7 acts, you know, like comfortably. There's a bowling alley that's got a nice stage, like West Side Bowl. They're fantastic. A little bit outside of downtown, and they're indoor in our events in the summer. So we don't want to put everybody in a bowling alley for 7 hours on a Saturday in June.
Right.
Nobody wants to do that, right? So I call the city, and thank God for middle of nowhere Ohio Rust Belt. It's $60 to close a street in Ohio. So the fence to block the end of the street costs us more every year than actually closing the street. So that's what we do. We rent out an art gallery who's got a sweet loading dock, and we put the stage on the loading dock. We bring all of our own sound, all of our own stage. We have a lighting guy who kills it every year, and then we close the street, and we just say, we got 7 acts. Come in. It's $5. You know, we're not out here to make money. It's $5 to get in, and it's BYOB, and we can't make money off alcohol sale in Ohio. So like,
okay.
Yeah, the only profit we take is from the door and sponsorships. And that's it. Like, that's the end of the day. You know, like we're creating a space, and the first year we did it, and we're going to try and get back into it. The reason we do an art gallery is we prop the door open and we put local artists inside. So like, if you're a painter, you're a photographer, and that's free. That's a free spot. Like, you're not paying us to do that, you know. And I'm not trying to, you know, like, I'm not trying to flex. Like, I'm not trying to brag. Like, it's free. Like, we reach out, we pick the artists we want inside, you know. But it's, you know, we're just inviting you. We're like, come set up a table, sell your stuff, you know.
Just a place to do that.
Yeah, and then we got good music outside. Gets a little crazy, you know. You need a minute to relax. Go inside, walk through the art gallery, you know.
And that sounds like that's what's so exciting, because I wanted to do that a little bit different with the art gallery. Just I wanted to do that with a little bit of a sports context, because I grew up playing sports, and I was I'm very passionate about that, because to me, I'm like, well, what brings people in to buy a shirt? Because here, especially with like things like fashion, I got a lot of people who are into fashion, and one of the things that I notice people struggle with is like, why should I wear your shirt?
Right.
What is this?
Mm-hmm.
I know Nike.
Yeah.
You know, and to a little bit, you know, however an extent, I know Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Why should I listen to your music? I don't know who you are. I know who Travis Scott is.
Right. Yeah.
But why should I? And so I see people kind of falling into that trap of like, they want to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, well, hang on. Like, let's build you first.
Mm-hmm. Like,
let's set a foundation first.
Right.
And then we can get you. And that's kind of what I want to do with like holding events. And my last podcast that I did on this show, I talked about a event that I had. And just long story short, it was an event that I kind of knew was going to, if I'm being completely honest, I knew it was going to fail.
Yeah.
I spoke to a local community center near where I live. Where I live is very family oriented.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
It is families and kids. Like, that's what it's designed for. And I'm like, hey, let's run a basketball tournament. 3-on-3. Let me see what we can get. And I basically ran off of IOUs and Sure Man, I'll Be There's, and a community center that wanted 70% of the gate for turning on the lights for rent. Mm-hmm. And me, I was like, yo, I knew it was bad business. I was like, I don't want to do this. And then I was like, you know what? 70% off gate, that's fine, because I'm not paying anything in. If they would have said, hey, we want $250 to rent and then 70 off the gate, absolutely not. No. But hey, you know what? First event, let me just get my feet wet. Let me do this. Yeah. And they ended up canceling it. Found out like a day later, and again, I should have done my due diligence on this. They buried the sign up in a part of the website that you can't access from like a public domain. You have to like sign up and do all these things. Yeah. And I was like, well, I never had a chance. Yeah. I had at one point I had 20 people messaging me, which would have been 5 teams, and we were looking for 8 or 16. That's cool. Close. I can get 3 more, you know? And they're like, hey, I can't sign up. I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, well, damn, like, okay. And that's kind of, and I knew it was going to fail. But to me, that was like, hey, I was mad for a few days. I was upset. I let myself be mad. Then I was like, okay, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
How can I build back better from this?
Right.
And I think that's the hardest part with something like this, that you kind of pour so much energy into.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's like, I mean, that's the space, you know, that's events. Like we, you know, I say we learn expensive lessons, you know, because we run into the same thing, because it's, you know, we had a bad deal with a venue. So we own our stage. We own a piece of stage, and it's heavy as hell. We bought it off of a middle school on a discount because a PA law changed. So a PA law in Pennsylvania changed. So now schools in the stages in middle schools had to have railings. So the stage we bought wasn't to code.
That's why I love like local stuff.
So
man.
We just bought it.
Those stories are awesome.
Yeah, my dad owns a landscaping company. We loaded it into a van, drove 3 hours, loaded this entire stage in, and then drove all the way back to Ohio. And we got it for $200.
Yeah,
it's a nice 2-foot high stage. Great. So we realized when we got back to Ohio, we didn't have anywhere to put it, and it's heavy and it takes up a lot of space. So we made a deal with a venue downtown at Youngstown. We were like, hey, like if we can leave this here, and you know, you guys use it, and just let us know. We'll come set it up, tear it down, throw us $50 per time you use it, and just let us keep it in the back. They had a whole open floor as a bar, and they had an open floor above them that they weren't doing anything with. It was all storage. They're like, all right, like let us do it. And then, you know, what do we say? 2 days later on Instagram, we see them using our stage without letting us know. So we show up the next day to get it, and it's just like, that was stupid. Like we learned a lesson. Like I thought we could trust this guy. We can't. And that's part of it all the time. You know, we ran into the issue of like, well, nobody's coming to the show. Why not? Because our promo sucked. We didn't put anything out. So what do? We got our own internal videographer, Ethan. He kills it. He makes all the videos. You see my dumbass acting in them on Instagram. Yeah. But they kill. People love them.
We talked about that the other day, about how videos do better. And like, that's one of those things I'm like, oh man, if I knew that.
Dude, it's Instagram cares only about faces and videos. Like if you post a picture, and honestly, like you could test it on your personal account, like because I do it all the time. Like I was just in Boston. I'm here in Phoenix for a little bit. Post a bunch of landscape photos of me hanging out. It's like nobody sees it. Now maybe my friends just don't care about me, and that's fine. But then you post a picture of your face, and you're doubling likes. And it's the same for our business account. You know, we'll put up the flyer, and we do 200 likes. So not horrible. And then we put some money on it later, and we do better. 200 likes on the poster, whatever. We put up one of those videos, it's like 600 views. Not a crazy amount of likes either, but a lot more impressions, a lot more engagements.
Honestly, that's what you need more.
Yeah, that's what matters.
Like, cool, you double tap this, but like I need you to see it more.
And the shares are what it's all about. Yeah. So we literally, so our poster and our videos, so we got 7 event coordinators that work with us. We share it everything we share once a week to our stories, and then you see how quickly that blows up. Yeah, it's a silly thing, but you just got to play the algorithm.
And I think there's certain things that, I mean, I feel like I knew that, especially with my brand, I'm the only one on the brand, and I purposely did not name it after myself, because I feel like that's one of those things. I read an article a while ago about Virgil Abloh, who started Off-White. And they said that the smartest thing he ever did was not use his name. Yeah. Because if he ever sells, or if he's ever, does anything like that, he still owns his name. Right. Which we saw that happen to Prince in the 90s. Yeah. It's like, no, you're like, your name, that's like,
part of it. That's part of it.
Which is the wildest thing ever to me, that you cannot own your name. Yeah. And like just having to make those decisions solo, it's one of those things where, that was something that was bogging me down. I was like, okay, I want to get 2 articles out this week for for the website. I also want to get a video out this month, and I want to run an event this quarter. Actually, if that's your full-time job, that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, it's manageable for sure.
When it's not your full-time job, right? When you've got 8 hours of work, and then for me, I coach, so and then you got to go coach, and then I got to go home and I got to do this, and my brother, he's wondering when we can catch up on this show, and my mom's upset that she hasn't seen me in a while, and hey, my dad wants to know if I'm going to rugby practice tonight. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like,
dude, it's serious, and it's something that like It's funny. So you look at my iCloud calendar, because like, so I get home from work, and then it's like, so I get home from work at 5 to 6, or it's like I literally every single minute, every single hour of my day is calendarized. Like, if somebody steals my phone, they know where I'm at every minute of every day. Like, it literally, like 5 to 5:20, I'm walking the dog. 5:30 I start making dinner. 6:30 I'm done eating dinner. I'm working on the event stuff. 6:30 to 7:30 I'm walking the dog again. 8 o'clock I'm hitting the gym. Like, every minute of my life after my 8 hours at work is played out. Like, and it sucks because then I have no time to do anything. But it's also like the only way I've found that I can make it all work. And honestly, I prefer it to just like, I'm not a dude who can just sit down and watch TV. Like, I enjoy a good movie, and I do like, I'm pretty sure my Thursday nights are like,
you've got to like recreate yourself.
Right, like my Thursday nights, like I got like 3 hours of just like do nothing.
Yeah.
Just stop, But every other hour that I'm awake is accounted for. And I'm also of the benefit where like it's not just me. I got, I have 3 people that I talk to twice a week, and then the rest of the crew I talk to once a week. I would say kind of where it boils down is like, I don't know, it's crazy because I almost feel like we gotta like dial you back once I get to Detroit, because I'm not even the most interesting one. Like, I'm the fucking permit guy. Like, I call the city, I close the street, I pull the alcohol permit, I book the venue, but like, Danny's a real big inspiration of mine, because he's just like, so 2019, we had an alpaca at the event, because Danny was just like, yo, I got a friend who knows where to get an alpaca. I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, let's get an alpaca.
Let's get an alpaca, man.
Right? Danny picks a lot of the music, and, it's a lot inspired by him, and, the other friend, Mikey kills it. He's Pittsburgh local.
Okay. So
all the music acts, Mikey's like I know a guy who knows a guy who, so all of our local, Pittsburgh acts, like we pulled, her name is Sierra Sellers. She's a gorgeous girl, beautiful singer, R&B act. So she shows up, a weird, not a bad vibe at all. And then like we always try and time it right. So we put her on right at like 8:30 to 9:30. So that the sun's setting, everybody needs a break. Like, we were going hard rap all day. We're getting into more hard rap in a little bit. Like, let's relax with Sierra for a minute. Perfect timing, perfect. But like Mikey, I was just like, yeah, I know this R&B act. I know her boyfriend who manages another artist who I'm friends with. We're like, shit, all right, let's make the call. And she's in. So it's just like, like, the connections are so cool, but it's having a team behind it is life changing and makes it so much easier.
And that's what I've kind of been reaching out with too. And I mean, as far as the scheduling, there's a joke back home. I grew up in Hawaii mostly, and there's a joke, and it's so hilarious because like the military side of me is like, how are you not up at 5 already?
Right, yeah.
What are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then the island side of me is like, hey, bro,
right,
we'll be all right.
We'll figure it out, yeah.
And the scheduling thing has been interesting because, and I use a ton of sports metaphors, but for me, what I notice is that I will work myself into the ground.
Right.
And then I'll snap and not do anything for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll be like, oh shit, I haven't updated the website in 3 months. You know what I mean? Like, that was happening. But what I realized is that, like, you take basketball, for example, because that's what I'm coaching. I needed that direct line. I needed that out of bounds in those 2 hoops.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would just be sitting out there dribbling for 3 hours, not doing anything, and then just being like, all right, cool, I guess I did it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Exactly,
and so I needed that a little bit of structure.
Yep.
And, like, I did need to schedule all the time. I did need to be like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this past weekend, I was like, all right, listen, we're going to hit this website hard as hell. We're going to get it redesigned, because what I realized I was doing with the website, I wanted to promote artists, and what I was basically doing was a blog. And so I was like, okay, this is dumb. I'm not doing this anymore. Reached out, and it's funny how you find people. Dude retweeted something that I said, and I'm small enough on Twitter where I can like look who said it, like look who retweeted stuff. Happens to be a rapper from Boston, and I'm like, okay, listen to some of his stuff. I'm like, oh, okay,
yeah.
Nick Nation, dude's dope. I'm like, yo, this dude. I'm like, yo, all right, this dude kind of fire. And we start talking and just about different things, talking about wrestling, talking about different things. And I was like, yo, do you want to write? I have a website I write. Like, do you want to write for it? And he's like, yeah, okay. I'm like, yo, hold on. I'll pay per article, like $75 an article. I'm not necessarily going to bring you on the team full time just because like there is no full time anything right now, you know. But having that per appearance definitely helped me because if you don't want to write, you don't want to write.
Yeah.
Ran into somebody on Reddit and she was like, yeah, I really enjoy writing and blah 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 blah. I'm like, she's like college student. I think she's somewhere in Texas, and I was like, yo, college student, do you like writing? You want to write for this? Like, I'll pay you. And she's like, all right, yeah, sounds good. And so building that team has been something where I can just be like, oh, okay, no, now I do have people. Right. I got a really good friend of mine that we were doing anime podcasts together. So I have this podcast and I have another one, which is Blurred Lines, which is nerdy stuff from a black perspective.
Okay.
So just, I feel like there's a lot of stuff. It was one of my things I noticed. You look on YouTube and you see a lot of white creators, and especially in tech space, and especially in like video games and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, we play video games too, man.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Yo, I love Tekken. Like,
yeah.
And so I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I've had somebody who, Nikita, has been awesome. Just someone who, like, she'll call me and be like, hey, are we watching anime today? Yes. yeah, we are. So that just building that team and trying not to do it solo. Because me, I'm definitely one of those guys. I'm like, nah, I got it. Don't worry about it. But what's cool about your story, and I've seen this with a couple, bigger names, of course, Wiz Khalifa, Mac Miller, like we said. And there's this wrestler who is an independent wrestler. I think he's wrestling stupid numbers. Like I think he's doing like 3 or 4 matches a week in different parts of the country. Yeah. And he's from Pittsburgh. He just relocated back to Pittsburgh. I think he was in Brooklyn for a while. He's from Pittsburgh, relocated back to Pittsburgh. And there's something. This is not saying anything bad about the people from the South or the people from the West or the people from the East Coast. There's something to say about that Midwest.
I don't know what it is, dude.
Hustle.
Dude, 100%. And it's, like the fact that the first year we did this, so we had nothing, right? Like no Instagram. Like we're an official LLC now. We got the website. Like we had nothing. We had an Instagram with 400 followers, which isn't nothing, but it's not a lot.
Right. Especially for something in event planning.
Right.
Let's say you get half those guys.
Exactly.
200-person event. If you get half.
Exactly. No, dude. It was, and so our first one, and really like the moment we realized, like, oh shit, okay, like we're not half bad at this. We did 400 people. We did 400 tickets at the door, And since then, it's like, it's so weird because you kind of fall in love with the struggle of it.
Yeah.
I think is a big part of it, dude. Particularly like the Youngstown community is super accepting. They love having us. We love having them at the events, like.
So we hear a lot of bad things about like small town Midwest.
Yeah.
About like people say a lot about it. I got a friend from Columbus and he said that, which he blew me away. He's so he went to Ohio State. He's gay, and I was like, yo, like, are they cool with you up there? And he's like, yeah, why wouldn't they? Right. I was like, I don't know, small town Midwest, man. No, man. I don't know.
It's a unique community for sure, but super accepting. Like we always have like, the 1 or 2 people who are like,
there's always something.
But by far, people always show out. It's honestly like the biggest frustration I have with doing events is like the government, like the city officials who like, because there's an events coordinator for the city of Youngstown. It's not a big city. It costs you $60 to close a street. Like it shouldn't, like there's not a lot going on in downtown. They got the bar scene. They got the downtown dinner scene. Like that's all great. There's a camp. I went to college there. So like there's some stuff happening, but nothing crazy. And it's frustrating because you see they've got this event coordinator and he gets on the news and he's talking about all the cool stuff he wants to do in the city and all the stuff he has planned. And I'm like, sick. Like, finally somebody who gets it. So I give him a call, and he doesn't want to talk, And I'm just like, all right, well, that sucks. And then, so we plan our whole event. We got to get permits closed through the city. We got to do this. We got to do that. He calls me the day of the event, and he's like, hey, by the way, you know that I'm doing an event today, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know you were doing an event today. And I was like, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I got Gucci Mane at the amphitheater tonight. And I was like, have you been pushing this? He was like, yeah, I've been pushing it. I was like, I didn't see shit. And he was like, well, like, I don't know what you want to do. You probably want to cancel. I was like, bro, I pulled this permit with you 2 months ago. And you're now just telling me? So I said, no, we're not going to cancel. I said, we'll be fine. So we did it. We did our 2019 block party the same night as a Gucci Mane show, downtown Youngstown. I can't say that we did better because I doubt it. But, it was just like, I couldn't believe that from a dude who grew up in the city and was talking so much about community and making things happen, that he's going to pull that on literally a group of, we all went to school there. I grew up in Youngstown. Sure, I lived in Cleveland at the time. My parents were still living in Youngstown. Yeah. I'm living in Detroit now. But everybody, half the team was still local. I was like, you're really just going to do this to me right now?
Well, I feel like this is, me and my mom have been talking about this a lot. I feel like a big issue is the whole get mine mentality.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and this is, it's weird because we both work a corporate job. I'm not going to say where we work, but we both work a corporate job. And even though we're not necessarily in a corporate position,
right,
in a way, like we are in a corporation, and that especially here because it is there are financial things. There is a very strong get mine mentality.
Yep.
And it's very refreshing when you talk to someone who is more about the team. But it sucks because, you look at sports, you look at music, and even her name is Chani. But even Chani, who I just brought on, and she just wrote a super sick story for me. It fucking completely flipped. And I read that one. She sent it to me on Discord, something like that. She's like, is this good? I'm not sure. And I read it. I'm like, holy shit.
Right, yeah.
Yo.
No, yeah.
Hey, this one, if you can do this, if this is you,
yeah.
She's like, I'm not sure how good it is. I just kind of, something I want to try. I'm like, yo, if this is you and you weren't sure, I got you.
Yeah.
And she was very wary of me, and she still kind of is. And me personally, I'm like, I know me. Why would you be like...
Right, yeah, but she doesn't.
She doesn't.
Right.
And so I feel like a lot of people have that get mine mentality.
100%.
And that's why she's nervous.
Yeah.
You know?
It sucks because, it changes how you do everything, right?
Yeah.
It changes, and I don't want to be that guy, and I'm pretty straightforward, but obviously, we have performers at our events, so I have to negotiate with them, right? And I honestly, and I try and do it pretty fair, where I'm just like, look, man, this is a slot for the budget. If you feel that that's not enough for you to show up, I respect it 100%.
Yeah.
But I can't pay it. That's bottom line,
Right.
But I hate that mentality of people got to come at me they come up with these numbers that are super high, and I get it, dude. Whatever you feel like you're worth, hit me with that number. But I'm just gonna tell you what I can afford, and it's but then I hate that because the event is so much about the vibe and about the culture and about coming together for a good time that
right.
I hate I have to start the conversation with this is the most I'm gonna pay you, because that sucks, and it's but 100% and then you run into particularly my end again is the boring pulling permits and stuff you think that your community would be about it, and particularly the people that are supposed to be in charge of your city would support you 100%, and it's just not the case. And it's just why do we have to be like this? Because we were talking the other day, and it's you're seeing more now where musicians are more about the collective and more about giving you space giving you space to do your own shit, and then come back as a group and make something as a group. And I love that mentality, and we're very much that way. Our videographer right now, he on the phone call was guys, I'm in school, I can't do as much video work right now. All right, I'm gonna keep hitting you, and just tell me when you're overloaded. You know, that's cool. You're in school, I get it. He wants to be a filmmaker, 100%. Do it, man.
Yeah.
But
well, and it's interesting with the city too, because me fighting with, and they're not even the city, it's just a community. Mm-hmm. Me fighting with the community of Anthem, it was it's very interesting to me. And my brother at his college, they had a chance to my brother goes to a very, I don't want to say conservative because it's not really politically conservative. It's just
reserved.
My brother's at West Point.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
This is not Miami. This is not Arizona State.
Yeah.
And they were hey, we want to bring some music here. And it shocked me because I think one of the choices was Ludacris. And I was like, what the fuck?
Could you imagine?
Yes. And the reason why I say it like that is because Where was I? I don't remember where I was. Actually, no, better story. Because that details are a little fuzzy. So Phoenix has a lot of, not boroughs, but like neighborhoods around it, cities around it.
Yeah.
Scottsdale is the one that kind of everybody knows.
Yep.
Scottsdale is a very rich, very white area, very old money. Like, you see a lot of, like, you know when everybody had like a 3 Series BMW and everybody's like, oh, 325, whatever. These are the ones that were like, oh, that's a real BMW.
Oh, okay.
Like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like that. Like, it's when you go in and like when you see that Mercedes, you're like, that's a 2-door Mercedes. That's not that 4-door Mercedes. That's a 2-door Mercedes. And so I'm at a comedy club and it's an open mic. And hey, open mic night, hell yeah, let's do it. And I kind of crack a joke to my brother. I'm like, yo, what if like someone big who ended up showing up? I'm like, yo, what if someone big? Like, what if this dude shows up? My brother's like, nah, that's never gonna happen. And after everybody, there's some guys that are actually really good that I wish I would have gotten their information because they actually killed it.
Yeah.
One guy, he had a really quirky delivery, but like low key, he knew his shit. Like he was really, really funny. At the very end, Hannibal Buress shows up. This is just a random open mic night. And he comes in, he goes, what's up, everybody? None of y'all know who I am, except for maybe that guy. And it was like me. It was like the only black people in the audience are like me, my mom, and my brothers, and like one dude on a date. He's like, so the only people that know me are probably that guy and those guys. And I'm like, hell yeah. Because I just seen Hannibal like 4 months earlier. And I was like, hell yes. We're getting full Hannibal here. And he's like, he just completely, I guess his parents live out here.
Oh, okay.
And he just, there are a lot of Chicago transplants come out here.
Sure.
That's if you ever go to a Cubs game out here, you might as well be in Wrigley Field. It's the same.
For sure.
So he just shits on Arizona for like 15 minutes straight. Just like completely obliterates Arizona. And it's funny because like the crowd is dead. He's the last act.
Yeah.
And this comedy club owner has been hyping him up the whole time. He's like, oh, we got this guy. You never know who's going to be here. And I'm like, do they know? Like, do they know that Hannibal is like this isn't his thing? And it's funny because I feel like there's a group of people who are like, yo, we need to do something cool. And it's always some sort of buzzword. We need to do something cool. We need to do something trendy. We need to do something that, and it's always the same words, get the youth excited. That was
literally verbatim. Why the fuck is Gucci Mane in Youngstown, Ohio?
Exactly, and that's the thing.
Makes no sense.
And so who do you pull? And no disrespect to Gucci Mane at all.
No. But
no disrespect.
Okay, also though, but this was like post-prison Christian reform.
And Gucci. I was just about to say, you got a guy on his rebrand.
Yes. Which respect.
Yeah, no doubt. But a guy on his rebrand.
Yes.
Dude's got hits.
They pay for the name.
Yeah, it's a name. He's got hits. Yes. He's going to come out there. He's going to do a set of like 10, 15 songs.
Yeah.
Solid hour, maybe an hour and a half long set. He
was 45 minutes late.
Hell yeah, man.
Did
you see the comments when the Fugees announced that they were reuniting?
No.
This dude goes, yo, so should I just show up to the venue 2 hours late or should I budget for Lauren too? And then the first show that they did was in Brooklyn. Because someone's like, yo, listen, they're not hitting all these sets. They're definitely hitting New York, so go to those ones. They said that they did the Brooklyn. I think they did Barclays. Yeah. And they were 3 hours late. And my friend's like, yeah, so right on time for a Fugees concert.
So there was another. So there's an arena in Youngstown called the Covelli Center, and they somehow booked the Migos. And so my friends are like texting me like, hey, we're going to see Migos. Like, and they're like getting there like an hour early. I was like, bro, you went too early. And then no shit, it's like doors at 8, music at 9, 8:30. Migos on Instagram, courtside at a game in Alabama.
Yo.
Or no, Atlanta. But still, it's like they're not fucking coming to Youngstown.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that like I just feel like when the city plans something, it's like even though you might have guys on this squad that get it.
Yeah.
It's like, do you?
No, exactly. Yeah. It's like,
or did you just look at the Billboard Top 100 and you were like, can't afford Drake.
Right.
Can't afford Taylor Swift.
Right.
Who else is here?
Yeah, it's like a playlist, man. Like if you're putting an event on, like it's like a playlist. Like you can't just put on all hits. Like if you're building an event, you're building an entire evening for someone.
Yeah.
And you have to structure it. Like I can't tell you how many times
There's certain artists that get that.
Bro, we not cancel, but we will like piece together a lineup, and then we're like, actually, we shouldn't bring them because it doesn't make any sense for them to go after this person because that just interrupts your night, you know?
Yeah. Have you been to like a big music festival yet?
Like there's a spot in Cleveland called Bright Winter. It's like a winter music festival, and,
Okay.
and like their headliners normally decently big, but I've never been to like a major one.
So I went to Flognaw,
Okay.
and you talk about artists that get it.
Yeah,
Tyler's one of those guys.
for sure.
The fact when you look at his past, I mean his early stuff, it's kind of funny. Like when you look at his early stuff for his festivals, it's like, yeah, man, you want to see my friends rap, and it's like, bro, your friends are A$AP Rocky and Action Bronson.
Right,
like
yeah.
your friends are charting.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Your friends got a million Spotify streams.
Mm-hmm.
But like when he built it out, and that show, going to that show is actually what launched me. I went in 2017, and that's what launched me on to like, oh shit, I can do this.
Right.
Is because like you'll see guys where they who they had Action Bronson one year. Like during the day they had all their like Terror Jr., who's a cool pop act. Roy Ayers I saw. Yeah.
Okay.
And like they had
That's
couple
tight, but...
Here's the funny thing too. I went 2017, 2018, and I saw a couple smaller acts. And it's funny when I say smaller. I saw some smaller guys like Isaiah Rashad.
Right. Back in the day.
Exactly. 2017 Isaiah Rashad.
Okay.
You know, and I saw, but it was funny because that dude cultivated such a fan base.
Yeah.
That like he brings out Schoolboy Q, and people are like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I remember people were like wondering who the final, because he does a mystery guest every year, and they're like, yo, who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? It was Earl Sweatshirt and him.
Shit. Okay.
And they were like, oh my, like it exploded. And I remember like they introduced Brockhampton one year. He's like, yo, you guys. Some of y'all know who this is. Some of y'all don't. This is Brockhampton. And now looking back, I'm like, holy shit, I saw Brockhampton in 2018.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of places are just like, especially the more corporate ones, like Coachella is a great example of like, they're owned by like a company that doesn't even do music.
Yeah.
You know, like I think the family just did something, like they just opened it up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, you guys just paid for Kanye and paid for Beyonce,
right? Which
is cool because those artists have a lot.
Yeah, if you could shell out.
Yeah.
Right. But you know, no, 100%. Like, no, it's an art form. Honestly, like putting together, it's a playlist. You're putting together music that people need to be able to listen to in a row. Like it's not.
And catch the mood of what you're doing.
Yes.
Because if you're doing like an art show, you might not necessarily want to have a mosh pit outside.
Right. You don't. Honestly, like our, you know, people come to the block party and we close the street and like something we work on every year. So like we work with a charity, right? Because a charity, what they do, we work with not Salvation Army. We work with, oh my God, St. Vincent de Paul. So it's a
yeah, they have a food bank out here.
Yeah, so they have a spot in Youngstown that sells discount furniture. So we call them up. They bring a truck and they put out couches and like whole like living room sets in the street, and they put price tags on it. Just like take it, you know, like just take it home. Like if you like this chair, sit in it all night and then take it home. Yeah. And it's just like that's the thing. Like it's a block party, right? So a block party, at least growing up, like I went to block parties growing up, and it was you had some music, you had somebody who was on the grill, you close the street, and you just hang out.
We used to do that in Hawaii all the time.
You hang out with the neighbors, and you get to know everybody, and you get to know your community, right? And that's where it all ties back into, right? So the event's called the block party, and then the neighborhood, like we're called the neighborhood LLC. Like that's the.
We probably should introduce that top of the
show. Oh shit! Yeah, we're the neighborhood LLC.
45 minutes in.
45 minutes in. Yeah, we're the neighborhood LLC, Youngstown, Ohio.
I coached football with my dad, and it was a 10-week court thing that we did. And then I remember it was the very last game, and one of the kids comes up to me and he goes, "Yo, my mom is wanting to make a card for you. What's your name?" And I was like, "Oh shit." I've been coaching these kids 3 days a week for 10 weeks.
It's all right.
And they're like, "Oh, hey, by the way, coach." I'm like, "Wait, you don't know my name?" He's like, "I've been calling you coach." I'm like, "Oh, he's right."
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, no, the neighborhood LLC out of Youngstown, Ohio. And literally, like, so the event's called, like, and we're not that creative, so it's the block party, because it's a block party. We're doing a Halloween event. It's called the Halloween party, because we're just having a Halloween party, right? And the Halloween party vibe is different. Like, we want you to show up in a costume and get real drunk with your friends and listen to heavy, scary music. Like, that's what we want, you know?
Go get a City Morgan.
Right.
You know?
You know, but the block party's about everybody just coming and hanging out and, like, seeing each other. And, you know, and people love it. Like, we put out cornhole. We put out, you know, we bring a food vendor. It's, again, like, we got a permit. It's BYOB. So it's like, you know, you don't got to drink the shit that we're selling if you don't want to. Not shit. We have a really nice... I shouldn't have said that. Rewind. Penguin City Beer is a local brewery, and they come out, and anything you buy off them goes straight to charity. We don't make any money off that.
Right.
And it's just... But, like, that's all it is. Like, we're just trying to have put on a good time. Like, just come out and hang out with us. That's really all it is, you know?
Yeah, and I think that very pure... When at the end of the day, it's something that you don't... In listening to you now, it's something that you are passionate about.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part. Money plays a factor. Like, money is power. I say it all the time. Yeah. Money is power, but at the same time, like, that's not the end-all, be-all.
No. So we were doing promo for the 2019 block party, and we went on a radio show, local Youngstown. It was like a Sunday morning at 8 a.m. was the show. And the dude, you know, we're talking about the whole event, we're talking about this, we're talking about that, and he's like, so what do you guys do with the money? I was like, what do we do with the money? He's like, yeah, what do you give it to charity? Like, what do you spend it on? I was like, what do you mean? Like, this shit's expensive. Like, you ever rent an art gallery? That's $600. You know, you want to get a decent act, you know, a decent headliner. That's $500-$600 there too. You know, the lighting guy's $500-$600, right? Like,
you're looking at 2000. You haven't even done anything.
Right.
That's one act.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just like no, like we're not giving the money away, but we're not swimming in it either.
No.
You know, it's like it goes into the bank account. We show up, you know, me and 6 of my friends who coordinate the event get a hibachi dinner, and then we start planning the next one. That's where the money goes.
I think that's something. That's what I miss the most about. And I mean, you've walked around Phoenix a few times.
Yeah.
And downtown's very special to me because how many chains have you seen?
Right.
Besides, I mean, some regional ones like the Bertos and stuff like that. Shout out to Bertos, man. Yo,
I'm ordering that when I get to the
hotel. Shout out to Bertos because I think we had a segment, me and my friend, when we first started doing the podcast. This was like right during the pandemic, where we were like, it wasn't meant to be a segment, but I wanted it to be as natural as possible. So like, I would turn on the mic when he wasn't looking, you know, just because he was nervous to talk, and so I was like, I'd be like, yo, I'll get some food. Where are we gonna go eat? And for like 6 weeks, it was Bertos.
Dude, Bertos is
it's so good.
I'm gonna call them about a sponsorship.
Listen, man. Hey, if you ever come out here, but so I lived in Virginia Beach, and the cool thing about Virginia Beach that no one really knows about is that it's actually, they call it the 7 cities. Hampton Roads, the 7 cities, like it's because it is legitimately 7 cities. Imagine New York if they took out Manhattan.
Right.
And it's just like all these other cities just kind of took its place. Like instead of Manhattan, it's like a bridge that connects, you know, over the Chesapeake Bay, I think it is. So it's Chesapeake, Virginia, Virginia Beach, Newport News, where did Allen Iverson go to school? Yeah, Hampton, Williamsburg, you can argue, and then, you know, it goes up north. There's a couple more that are more inland. Mm-hmm. But you look at who's from there. It's the Neptunes. It's Pharrell. It's, what's his name? Timbaland. Mm-hmm. Mary J. Blige. Mm-hmm. Aretha Franklin. Mm-hmm. Lawrence Taylor. Michael Vick. Allen Iverson. I'm like, where are all these fucking people coming from?
Yeah. No, dude. It's...
Like, I didn't get it. I was like, where are these people coming? Like, how are you doing this? And again, that's a very similar situation to what we were talking about. It's New York, Philly, nothing, D.C., Charlotte. Right. Or D.C., nothing, then Charlotte. And so Hampton Roads kind of fills that.
It's almost like the absence of something, though.
You know? That's the coolest thing. So I went to a place, and I actually met a couple people that I still fuck with. Happy birthday to Vice City Shogun. It's his birthday today. Happy birthday to Vice City Shogun.
Yeah, happy birthday, guy.
And shout out to what's his name? Berlin. Shout out to Berlin. He goes by, I think, Smooth Waffle on Instagram. I think that's his rap name is Smooth Waffle. And I was like,
nice.
Yo, that's kind of cold. And shout out to my homeboy Nico. His real name is Nico Mahor. But he went by Nicky Starkiller. So I haven't saved in my phone as Nico Starkiller because I'm like, that's rad as shit.
That's a good name.
But yeah, shout out to them, man. Shout out to everybody from the 7 cities, man. Shout out to M$M. Shout out to just everybody out there because what they did that was so dope. It was like, you know, like your friend, you know, with the recording studio. What he would do is it was last Fridays and last Sundays. Last Sunday of the month, he would just bring in as many artists as he could and bring in like food and like real like local food. And this is Virginia.
Yeah.
So it's like it's someone who's bringing like chicken and ribs and like I was going all the time. And it was just so cool to see like, oh, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
This is how you make it local because that's something I hadn't seen since Hawaii. Out here, we didn't, especially out in the suburbs, we didn't, my parents moved to the suburbs. First time we hadn't lived on a military base in like 20 years was like when we moved out here.
Right.
And so living in the suburbs, it was a culture shock because it's like, hey, can we go down to so-and-so? And it's like, no, there's...
You can drive.
No, it's just McDonald's up here. It's like, wait, there's no... We can't go to this place. We can't... Back home, they call them plate lunch. And it's just like a takeout box with a lunch. That's plate lunch. And it's like, we can't get plate lunch? Nah. Like, okay, well, can we go? No. It's like, well, what about no?
Yeah.
Like, damn, okay. And so seeing that again was like, oh, shit, this is how it's supposed to be. Because back home in Hawaii, if you walk down Waikiki Beach, which is like the tourist beach, I will bet every dollar I have, every single bar is playing music. Right. And when I say playing music, it's a guy playing music.
Yeah.
There's a person playing live, and I miss that.
Oh, 100%.
And so, because, like, even if you were, like if you went out with a chick. Like, last time I went, I was just hanging out for the night. I was meeting my family the next day. I flew out from Virginia the day before, and I had a day to myself. So I just, like, called some people and like, yo, man, hey, I'm on the rock. Come hit me up if you want to. I'm going to be here for, like, a week and a half. All right, cool, bro. And I was just walking up, and I was like, fuck, man. Like, this is... what I grew up around.
Right.
And on a military base, it's very tight-knit. Every 4th of July, what we used to do is go to the beach that we had on base, and they would have kayaking and outrigger canoes, and, like, they teach you how to sail. I know how to sail. I've caught a shark before, like, fishing. Oh, yeah, dude. And they'd have, like, they'd bring in, like, food trucks, and this is, like, 2007, too. This is, like, early, like, this is before food trucks were, like, a thing, like, before Instagram made them, famous, basically. Yeah. And, like, they would just grill out, and we'd all hang out on the beach. And then at the end of the day, they'd put up one of those fucking huge, inflatable screens, and we'd all watch like The Sandlot, or Toy Story. And like, getting out of the military, that's what I missed was like, just that camaraderie.
No, dude, 100%. So I just had that. So, I moved to Detroit in April, and so like I was living in Cleveland before. But most of my weekends were spent in Youngstown. Yeah. Because it was only an hour outside of Cleveland. So now I'm in Detroit. And I'm like, all right, like I got to learn the city. I got to stay here some weekends and actually get to know some people. So I go out. I make some friends and we go out and we show up at a bar, and like so we're standing in line outside this bar, and like it doesn't really click. And then we get up there and it's like, all right, like when you see your ID, it's a $5 cover. And I was like, okay, whatever, $5 cover. I was like, so who's playing? And he's like, what? I was like, well, who's playing? Like it's $5 cover. And he's like, no, this is a bar. Like, this is a bar cover. Like, you're just paying $5 to get in.
I've never heard of that.
I was like, I'm paying $5 to get to a bar with no music.
Yeah.
It was culture shock. I was like, what are we doing? Because, sure, Youngstown, like I go
especially, this is Detroit Rock City. This is Motown.
You know what? You'd be disappointed. It's an EDM scene. It's a good EDM scene. It's a good EDM scene.
I fuck with EDM.
But it's not the same. The live music, there's no live music downtown.
Really?
It's all EDM. Yeah. It's good EDM. Like I don't know if I was telling you, I saw DJ Hachu who came up with Jay Dilla. I saw him live for $15. That was worth every penny. But no, I was just like...
Swedish House Mafia, their tickets go on sale tomorrow, and I think I'm going to get tickets just because, like, I fell in love with music, and at a certain point... Plus, like, I was talking to my mom about it because I was like, man, you really love this house? And my mom's like, what do you think I grew up on? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like... Braven, I used to skip school to go to the clubs. I'm like, okay, I have like 1,000 questions now. You were skipping school to go to...
What time were the clubs open?
Also, how old were you? Never mind. Don't answer that. Don't care. But she saw like Jolene Jumpin' Perez and that Chicago house scene grow. Like,
dude.
She didn't... It's funny. She's like, hey, Swedish House Mafia. What kind of music do they play? I'm like, I don't know, techno. She's like, do they play house? I'm like,
why do you know what house is?
I was like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, they play house. And she's like, oh, cool. I used to listen to house. I'm like, no, this is like, and I did my research on it, and I was like, no, house started in Chicago, then Detroit, New York, Paris, and I was like, holy shit, that's so cool that like you had a scene like that, though. Mm-hmm. You know, like that she would go and she would. I found out later she would just drive, like she'd leave school and she'd just like drive into the city because she lived outside. Like she lived in Chicago for a little bit, and then when she moved outside the city, she was older, so she would like call her friends and they'd be like, hey, we can miss last period, we can go out, like, which is so cool. Yeah, like those stories.
Oh yeah, for sure.
My mom's not in jail. Who cares? Like,
you know? It's just math class.
Exactly. Like, yo, my mom can add. We're good.
Yeah. I ain't gonna use that shit.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, hold on. You skipped class? Yeah. Did you get your diploma? Yes, Braven. Then who the fuck cares, mom?
Right. Yeah, that's fine.
But it is something that, you know, that's been something, you know, trying to find that scene, which it's cool that in Youngstown they have something where it is more accepting, because I feel like a lot of cities, and this is kind of what we were going back to with the city officials and stuff, they want it to be this.
Right.
They want it to be Shakespeare in the Park.
Right.
Or they want to be, you know, example, I know like I know what you said, but like they want it to be Detroit Rock City. We only do this here.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
And it's cool that you live in a place where, or you know, you got ties to a place where it is more like, hey man, you want to do some cool shit?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
No, and it's, you know, it's something that like I don't think that we would be doing the events if we didn't grow up with that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if I didn't grow up going out honestly, like I didn't go out a lot in college, and then, but you know, I graduated college, and like I said, like I live in Cleveland, I kept going back to Youngstown. I don't know if there was ever a night, like a Friday, Saturday night, I went out in Youngstown where there wasn't live music. You know, like that's just the scene, you know? And like you could get into some argument, like some of the bar owners are definitely like there for the cash grab, which whatever, like you know,
happens.
Not everybody's gonna be as fun as musicians are.
Right.
You know, it's
there's even musicians who are like,
there for the cash grab, yeah. But you know, like I feel like Youngstown's a good scene of people who just don't give a shit. You know, like they're just there to play music, and you know, they don't really care even if you're listening. You know, like they're just there to play.
Getting paid is almost like a bonus.
Exactly, yeah. You know, but it's a cool little city of just like people who out of nowhere just have a surprising love for music, and I love it.
And that's the interesting thing, too, is that when you told me a while ago that, yeah, you know, we do hip-hop and stuff, there was a part of me that was like, okay, is this guy like Jimmy Iovine? Like, hey, listen, which we found out later he actually didn't even really listen to hip-hop, which is kind of hilarious. But, like, is this guy, you know, like BC Boys, Rick Rubin, like, hey, I actually know what I'm talking about? Or is this guy like, hey, everyone listens to rap nowadays, might as well? And it's so cool to actually, like, when you meet someone that does have that passion for like, when you said Jay Dilla, I was like, hold on, what?
Yeah.
Like, there's some times that you don't like. There's like, I was talking to somebody on the floor.
Because I'm a white dude from Ohio.
Not even partly, but here's the thing, but beyond that too, because like, was that part of it? Yes, but like, there are certain things where like, it's very much like, yo, you had to be there. It's like when I see somebody, I made a playlist on Spotify, and I just called it Childhood. Because I was playing a Crazy Taxi. Yeah. And I was just like listening to the music. I was like, holy shit, this makes a lot of sense on the music I listen to now. It's like all like punk and old school rap. And I made it, and I was like, and I was listening to it, and I was just like, you really don't understand unless you know who hieroglyphics is. Right. Unless you know who dilated peoples are. Unless you know like these certain, like someone's like, yo, what's your favorite genre of music? I'm like, it's a very regional, like, did you listen to underground California hip hop from like 1998 to 2005? Yeah. If you didn't, listen to this very specific time frame, like, you know, even like MF Doom. People are like, yo, like, I remember I turned my friend on to MF Doom, and he's like, oh, he's a huge hip hop fan. He's from New York, and he's like, never heard of him. And then later he was like, dog, I can't believe I didn't listen to him sooner. And again, it was very like, if you didn't listen to underground, so when you said Jay Dilla, I was like,
dude, so it's
like, oh, he like you listen to hip hop, okay, so like, all right.
It's funny because so it honestly hit me like high school, college. I honestly couldn't tell you before I got into into college, I couldn't have told you a single like hip hop group. And then honestly, what it got into was I wanted to. It was literally like I was trying to find some workout music, and it's like a sad start. And I went with Wu-Tang for no reason. Like I could not, to this day, I could not tell you why. I was like, I'm gonna put on some Wu-Tang and start working out, and that rolls you into like. So then you roll into MF Doom, and then you roll into, who else? Like obviously, like you got Biggie and you got Tupac, and then like you start growing, and then you're like, oh shit! Like then you get it. Like I started getting into Brockhampton, and then you know, and then like it's weird because then you start circling back, right? So then I was up, and you know somebody was like, obviously like I know Inspector Deck from Wu-Tang, and then I found out that he was in a crew with Esoteric and 7L. You ever heard of Czarface, bro?
Yeah.
Yes, I started buying Czarface albums.
Which is funny because this is my favorite. I was explaining to my brother why Run the Jewels means so much to me.
Yes.
And I was like, dog, my favorite Outkast song of all time is Killer Mike's first song.
Right.
The Whole World by Outkast is my favorite, and it's only on one album, and it's on an album that's a compilation album, except for that one song.
Right.
And I'm like, that's my favorite Outkast song of all time. And so I heard about this dude in 04, listening, and I can tell you everything. I was listening to it playing NFL Street 2 with Carl Lane at his house back home in Hawaii.
Dude.
And I remember LP because I was a big... If you play a lot of those old video games, like, go... That whole generation ruined us, man. Go listen to NBA Live 2003 soundtrack and ask yourself, yo, why is Chingy an LP? Like, dude, what hip hop head was making the soundtrack?
And then you learn that Anderson .Paak has been around since Tribe, and you had no idea.
Since Tribe?
Dude, that guy was on Tribe tracks. It's wild.
And that's the wildest thing to me about just getting into music like that is that like. Because I found the coolest thing too is that like listening to shit and then like sharing it with like my brothers, right? Because my brothers, here's the funny thing, I grew up very, very churchy. My parents were borderline cultish. We don't have to talk about that today. Sure. One of these days I'm gonna talk about that on this podcast. It's not today, but so I was only listening to like my parents, came up in the '80s, so like Rob Bass, Rakim. Hey, Rakim's the greatest rapper of all time, by the way. Andre 3000, but Rakim, also Tupac, but Rob Bass, Rakim, Public Enemy.
Yeah.
Listen, when your parents grow you up on Public Enemy, you think a little different. And so that was my mom was, but like I said, my mom was big in house and big into pop. So like Carly Simon was always on, and Cher, and she's gonna shoot me if I don't say her name. Carly Simon, Cher. There's another person, I can't remember who it is. I'm gonna remember like on the drive home. But my dad was a big rock guy. Yeah. So Metallica, Sabbath, that was always what was being played. And I kind of discovered hip hop just from the video games I would play. And when I got a little bit older, I discovered I was at the Apple store in Hawaii. And I just played. I had this really burning desire to be from Chicago because I thought that was cool.
Right.
And I heard about this guy Kanye West. Turn on Touch the Sky. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's still probably my favorite Kanye song ever. And so I heard, and from that I see this name Lupe Fiasco. A couple years later, I'm playing video games, and Lupe Fiasco has Kick Push, and so I discovered that. And then I got out of, kind of stepped away from. I got really into church, stepped away from that, listened to only Christian music, and I was like, yo, I need something. I need some sort of. Kind of what you said about, about workout music, but I was listening to Lecrae, who's cool, and I was listening to some of that, and like, it's funny seeing Andy Mineo now, because I'm like, dog, I was listening to you like a couple years ago, like, and so it's interesting just going back because what I found was like, I ended up circling back, and what got me out of it, I was going through really, really bad depression, first time I really experienced it, and my friend, the one who I did the podcast with, he's like, yo, check out this dude. His name is Kid Cudi. You might like him.
For sure.
This is like probably a Kid Named Cudi time frame.
Okay.
And so I listened to him, and my friends were really big into Eminem. And a friend of mine was like, she goes, hey, listen, you can't be this depressed. Just take this and just write. And when I would write, it would come out in rhymes. And I was like, holy shit, I'm kind of good at this. And so I just started focusing more and more of my time on listening to hip hop. And then what I found eventually, my big thing about Christian music was like, I kind of asked myself, I'm like, yo, how come all these artists that are preaching about like black liberation and, the black community and, freeing ourselves from these struggles, why are they all Muslim?
Right.
I'm like, why isn't Lecrae talking about this? But Lupe is, and Chuck D is, and Tupac is, and like, you can go down the line of Muslim rappers who like Black Thought and like the Roots, and I was like, and that kind of got me out of that, out of only listening to one thing, and I found out about Childish Gambino reading a Forbes magazine that someone left open, and eventually that kind of all culminated in like, hey, everyone has a place.
Yeah, he's a Jehovah's Witness, right?
I don't know. I think his family
was raised Jehovah's Witness.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because like you get to that journey where like it's so interesting now because like I kind of turn my brothers on to certain music.
Yeah.
So one of my brothers, the one that's in the that's at West Point, massive J. Cole fan. I'm not the biggest fan of J. Cole. I don't have beef with him. It's just like
no, I respect what he's doing.
Yeah, there's some stuff.
Dreamville wise.
Hey, listen, man.
Yeah.
When he gets into those slow beats,
mm-hmm.
the trap beats, I don't really like J. Cole over trap beats. When he gets them like slow, like oh my god, can you imagine him over Dilla beats? Come on.
What was his? Forest Hill Drive was that was probably my favorite album. Man.
That's my favorite. But my brother kind of I would turn on certain music and he'd respond to it.
Yeah.
And like my favorite rapper of all time is Lupe, and my other brother, he got really into Childish Gambino and like Atmosphere and the underground stuff, and it was like just being able to share that kind of motivated me to like, who else would want to hear this? Because I listen to a ton of music and I go to festivals and Pigeons and Planes, and I for a while, like over the summer, I was listening to one album a day. And it sounds crazy, but like when you think about it, you turn it on, it's about an hour, and you go to work and you do your thing, And I just wanted to share that with other people.
Right.
And that's kind of what it sounds like with you, is like, hey, listen to this journey I went on.
Yeah.
And listen to other people who are on their own journey.
I literally was like, had you talked to if you talked to me before I started listening to Wu-Tang, I would have told you that rap is not music. I was one of those people. Yeah, and then it like totally...
Shout out to Wu-Tang for flipping almost everybody on that too. Like,
they're so good.
In my opinion, Wu-Tang's the greatest group of all time because they had the business foresight to break up.
Yeah.
And like they knew that they were going to.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like even when they did, like it was like, yo, I'm gonna make a solo album, and they're like, is Liquid Swords really a solo album? Like, almost everyone from Wu-Tang is here at some point. Like,
right, yeah.
It's like an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
It's like,
they did those,
are you sure?
Yeah, they did those big compilation ones too, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
like 20, 30 song albums. So you're like,
what are you guys doing?
The new Kanye album, I was like, oh man, there's some of it I liked.
I gave up, dude. I was like, I made it halfway through and I was like,
you better be there. I was like, yo, how many songs? 25? And like, I'm here for like, when people are like Kamasi Washington, I'm like, yo, 3-hour jazz album?
Yes, thank
Let's
you.
go. And then I was like, yo, 20 songs, Kanye? Like, okay, you know what? No, you've done this before. Is this, all right, and it's a lot. It was a lot.
I made it halfway through.
I got some beef with how he mixed it. There's some songs on there that are literally doubles. If you look at the track listing, like he's got 2 versions of like 3 different songs. And then one of the songs he has, there's a better version of it on Pop Smoke's album. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yo, you could have cut this down.
He produces all his own stuff though, right? Now he does.
Pretty much. He EPs it for sure, but like
he used to do what were his Mike Dean, right? And Shea Pope were his guys?
Kanye's talking about community, Kanye's a very interesting case. Because I'm one of those guys that's like, yo, if you're a rapper, you stand behind your raps. You wrote these raps. These are your raps. You better rap it. But if you listen to early Kanye, that's Consequence.
Right. If
you listen to everyone's favorite Kanye, 808s and Heartbreak, and part of My Beautiful Dark, but not all of it, that's Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
If you listen to a lot of My Beautiful Dark, and a little bit of like Watch the Throne, not all of it, that's Push.
Right.
If you listen to Watch the Throne, that's Push, and that's like Jay-Z and Kanye. And it's like you can tell the different influences, but from what it is, and this is why I kind of eased off on the whole Drake doesn't write his own music things, is because number one, neither does Beyonce.
No.
Neither does Adele.
No.
Neither does Taylor Swift. I'm sure they have. I'm not saying that they're like, this isn't like a pop factory. Like
they don't have to anymore.
Number one, they don't have to. Number two, like the pop music. In pop, we're used to seeing it's different.
It's all produced.
In pop, we're used to seeing a whole team of writers create something, And in rock, we're used to seeing like, oh, this guy drums and he also writes the songs. Right. Like we're used to that. It's not necessarily Anthony Kiedis from Red Hot Chili Peppers writing.
Exactly.
It might be Flea. It might be somebody else. But in hip hop, it is just you.
It's you.
And I feel like when they came out and Drake was basically like, yo, I throw some credit to my team if they help me on a bar. I'm like, if you've ever sat in a studio session, that's like 80% of rap.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you guys got a rhyme for this? Like, how's this bar sound? And it's like, yo, I was going to say this. No, that's whack. That's whack. Like, and he'll just throw you a writing credit. Mm-hmm. That's actually kind of dope as shit.
Yeah, no, I like that.
And Kanye is a very interesting case to me because you hear Timbaland, you hear Gesaffelstein, you hear all these other people.
Yeah.
Travis Scott was heavy on some of those. And you can hear that. And I'm like, and this is why now I'm kind of wondering, like, what do you sound like?
Right.
We hear how you sound like when you hung out with Consequence.
Do you think this new album's him? You think Donda's him? Because I don't think he's got a lot of friends left.
I don't either. Number one, I don't. I think, and here's what I'm wondering too. And this isn't really a political thing. This is not. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
I have very strong political opinions that we have talked about on this podcast. This is not a political podcast. I wonder, and this is what I wonder a lot about a lot of people who at one time supported Trump or now, regardless of how you feel now. Were you motivated by going against the establishment? Because even though a rich guy from New York is very establishment,
yeah.
But were you motivated by this is what we think is against other things? Because I kind of, when I re-listened to some of the Kanye stuff, first of all, he had a song with Kenny G and Clips, which I was like, that's very Kanye. That's extremely Kanye. But then at the same time, I'm like, he's going, and this is why, like, even with Kyrie, and I disagree with him doing the vaccine, unless that is like a religious thing with him. But I disagree with him going against not wanting a vaccine. But like, I feel like Kanye has been going on a very public journey.
Yeah.
Because what we forget about early Kanye, like Through the Wire, he was in a car accident that nearly killed him before his career. Mm-hmm. It's not like it was like halfway through. It was like before his career. So he's been going on this journey, and we've seen almost all of it. Like, we knew that he had this accident. So I just wonder, and this is why having a team, like what you were saying, is so important. And this has been something that I've done when I had my own mental health struggles, and I still do even, as I grow. I push people away all the time.
Yeah.
And I have to kind of figure out, okay, am I pushing away right now? Am I pissing people off right now who are going to remember this even though I'm going through it? Mm-hmm. They need help too.
Right.
And so I kind of wonder, like, hey, who's your team?
Yeah.
And I tell my brothers all the time, yo, the team that is around you, this is my biggest beef with Eminem. With not being like, yo, bro, and ruined is a strong word. You ruined G Unit, you ruined Slaughterhouse. He's kind of learned now, like, hey, I'm just gonna back the fuck up and let Griselda and Boogie do their things. But I just like that team around you tells me so much. And even in my case, it's very telling that I don't have a team around me. And I just wonder, and it sounds like you've got a pretty decent team around. Well, it sounds like you got a good team around you.
I do, yeah.
I don't want to say pretty decent because from what I've heard, they sound
They're
good.
great, yeah.
And I think that's a very important thing, is finding that, like, my dad always says, find your tribe.
Right.
Find those people who are, those hardcore guys.
Yeah, and it's like, it's funny because I'll honestly, like, so Danny, I grew up with him. So like Danny and I met in 4th grade, and so like I've known the kid my entire life. We've up until recently when I moved, like we lived in the same neighborhood, and so we'll have we have these meetings, and we'll be like ready to hit each other, and then like we'll hang out off the meeting, and then I'll call him on a cell. I'm like, hey Danny, like it's all love, like we're just trying to figure this out. And he's
How
like,
do you balance that, the friendship with?
Dude, it's tough. Like I feel like I know that there are probably a couple people on the team right now that are pissed at me. And, it's like, and it's funny because it's going to like, and what I'm about to say I'm good at is going to exactly contradict what I'm saying I'm good at. But what I think I'm good at is, like understanding and admitting when I'm wrong. And like, you know what I mean?
I see what you mean, yeah.
Right, like as soon as I say that, I sound like a dick. But I actually think I'm good at it, you know? And so like, the biggest struggle for me, and I think it's something that like I pick up, so my dad and I are very similar in that we suck at letting other people do things for us. Like, yeah. I suck at it. And
I swear to God, that's a skill.
Dude, and I can't, like, for the life of me, I can't do it. And I know that everybody on the team is capable and ready to help me out. Right. But it's just like, you know, and it just boils down to like, all right, like I could ask them, or like I could just knock this shit out myself because I know I could do it. And, you know, and so like, but that's doing a disservice to myself and to them. So like I'm forcing myself to like put more onto the team because it doesn't need to be all me and it shouldn't be all me and it's not all me, right? Like I 100% I could not do it without them. Right. Sometimes, and I feel like sometimes that's the vibe I give off and it's genuinely not how I feel. But it's challenging to run a business with your friends. I wouldn't do it any other way because the crew that I have and the crew, you know, like what we do and what we accomplish is amazing every time. Yeah. But
and I think that's the goal, right?
Right, exactly. Like, you know, and no matter what, like if we're gonna get in on a phone call later tonight and we're gonna scream at each other all night, by 11 o'clock Saturday, when the event's almost done and we're done selling tickets, we're gonna be having the time of our fucking lives. Like, when are we doing the next one? You know, and that's just the roller coaster of it. Is just the waves of stress and anxiety, and then just the payoff of standing in a group of 700 people with lights going crazy in a warehouse and just thinking like, yeah, we made this shit happen.
I'm at the point now where I haven't quite gotten. Obviously, I haven't gotten there. I'm at the point where I'm starting, and it is hard to bring people on because, like, me and my brother had a little bit of a falling out we used to do the Blurred Lines podcast together, mm-hmm. and he wanted more structure, and I was like, yo, just go.
Right.
And I wish I would have listened a little bit more to him, and I've tried to bring him back in, and he's like, nah, dude, I'm good. But the thing is, he's still my brother, right? And I still, you know, want to do that. But it is one of those things that is very difficult to like, hey, are we doing this right? Is this the right thing to do? Is everything cool here? Like, and that's the one thing I am a little bit scared of bringing friends in. You know what I mean? Is because, you know, even me and my buddy, we were doing the podcast for months and still don't really know what happened. I have an idea that I probably know of some things, but I think it's the hard thing too about growing up as a military brat, right? Is that like I moved around a lot, so it's very easy for me to be like, all right, cool, done.
Yeah.
You know, it's that is something that it doesn't, not hard.
No.
But you know, it sounds like you've got just a lot of things going that I don't want to say you got a lot going for you because like, no, you busted your ass for this.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
the whole crew does. It's a fight every time.
But sounds good, man. Appreciate it. All right, so this is the time.
Yep.
What do you got to plug?
All right, so it's The Neighborhood LLC on Instagram, at The Neighborhood LLC on Instagram. TheNeighborhoodEvents.com is the website. I know that I'm sitting in Phoenix, Arizona right now. We're born and raised Youngstown, Ohio. Saturday, October 30th, we're doing a Halloween party. We got Grizzly, fantastic local rapper. Chanel Kazadi with a full band, another fantastic Youngstown rapper. Then we're going to...
That full band is wild. That sounds dope. That sounds sick.
Oh, my God. A rapper with a full band
That's the roots, man. That's the roots.
So good. Then we're going to DJ Outro from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. BYOB. So you don't gotta buy our drinks if you don't want to. But if you do, it's all going to Inspiring Minds, which is a group that promotes artistic creativity in kids in Youngstown, Ohio. Awesome. It's all ages, technically. Just don't drink if you're not old enough to do so. Costumes encouraged. It's gonna be a great time. We do everything. We're on YouTube.
You gonna tell us what you're going as, or is that a secret for?
I'm a bank robber.
Yes. I love it.
About the Dickies jumpsuit with the Doc Martens and the sunglasses inside. That's what I'm going as. I think the rest of the crew, most of them are going as the Scooby-Doo gang.
That's cool.
Which is tight.
I wanted to go. I was telling my buddy, and he wouldn't listen to me, and I wish he would have. I wanted me and 4 other people to go as the Spice Girls. But
That'd be tight.
I didn't want to do the whole, like, the crop tops or anything like that. Yeah. Because what I was telling them, I was like, yo, you already wear tracksuits.
Yeah.
Like, you already will wear, like, a jersey.
Yeah.
I'm already wearing black and camo. Like, I already do that. Like, let's just go, because you're going to have that one person who's like, hey, man, are you guys the Spice Girls? And it's like, yes.
I wanted to be the Reservoir Dogs, but then everybody just realized that's just suits and sunglasses.
Plus, like, I think from what I've heard, everybody's going as, like, Squid Game this year. I'm like, boo.
Yeah, dude. If there's
Come on.
I think we might just make a rule where if you're in Squid Game's outfit, you're not coming in. Get back in the car.
But, all right, man. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And usually, so here's the thing. Usually I would say, oh, man, I'll get this out probably Tuesday, Thursday. I'll get it out tomorrow. That way we can get, hopefully drum up a little bit of promo.
Appreciate you.
We'll
share
hey,
that.
If you're ever out in Phoenix, if you guys ever want to do anything out here, I got some people out here that 6x6 would love to have you. Who else? Freshco. There's a lot of guys here that would absolutely love to put something on.
I'd love that. Hell of a drive, cool. But I'd love that.
And they got planes now. We'll be all right.
Yeah, let me ship you a sound system.
Yeah. But yo, that will be it. Like I said, this is Braven the Grown Up Kid. Y'all know where to follow me. I'll post all that later. Have a good night, y'all, and peace.